Yo, welcome to my channel. This is Ward Draws a Lot. Obviously I'm Ward, otherwise why would I name it Ward Draws a Lot? According to my clickbait, today I'm going to be drawing my Imvu character. Why do I still have one? I don't know. They look cute. There's nothing I can do about that. And I make them cute, so like win-win for me. I like dressing up characters. So, today what we're doing is we're going to be drawing my character as best as I can, to my ability anyway, and just using him as my own OC, because when you make your own avatar, he's your own OC anyway. So I started off with like looking at a reference of him and then trying to imagine what kind of pose he would be doing, and as you could tell, I was not liking this sketch. In fact, I'm pretty sure I wrote right there that this sketch looks like ass. It kind of does. No cap. That shoe I probably redrew like minimum 45 times, which it was extremely difficult, and I was holding my pride as hard as I could to not look up a reference, which is dumb. Don't do that. Look up a reference like a normal person. The sketch was looking booty, straight up buns doo-doo. So I was like, dude, let's just restart this. So I went over to the right side of the paper and I resketched it out, and then I was like, let's give him a little bit more, I guess, fluidity in his pose, because before it was just like this stagnant weird thing that didn't make any sense. So I tilted him over, put his hands in his pockets, then went ahead and started drawing the shoes and the legs, etc. Well, the legs first and the shoes. And I was still having supreme difficulty drawing that shoe, because I was trying to tilt it upwards so you could see it under, kind of, but it just wasn't working for me, and I was getting super aggravated at that point, because I'm pretty sure, legitimately, I drew it like maybe 10 times. I just cut it out a bunch of times, because you guys don't want to see me draw the same thing, like, horribly 10 times. So at one point, I was like, fuck this. And then I just ended up looking up a reference for a foot, along with Tim's, or Timberland boots, because that's what the outfit called for, or that's how at least I designed it. So I took it step by step, and I cut it off into sections. I made sure that the ankle had one part, the top, or like the arch of the foot. I don't know if the top part is necessarily called the arch. And then down to the toes, I tried to separate them enough to where it looked like this is what it would look like in a shoe. And then from there, I put the design of the shoe on top. Finally, when I was comfortable with everything, I decided that it's time to move on to the white piece of paper. This is usually where I do my finalized drawings, especially because this is cardstock and it takes in marker ink much better than a sketchbook would. A sketchbook would just kind of soak up the marker ink because it's too toothed, or in other words, it has too much bumps and raises on it, and that causes the ink to slip in between those bumps and raises, and overall you lose more ink. So as I was drawing, the first time I realized it was much too big for the paper and I wasn't going to be able to fit the whole body, because I have this problem where I draw too big on my paper, so I had to actually level it out with two little lines from the top and bottom kind of telling me this is how much space I have to use. Otherwise I just kind of draw too big and then it ends up being like a 3/4 of a person drawing, so it just cuts off at the thighs, and I really didn't want that. I wanted to try my hardest to fit the whole drawing into the paper, and I don't know if I'm gonna do that next time, because after I finished drawing and coloring it, I was like, dude, these proportions look absolutely awful. Now normally my proportions are bad, but not awful, so so when I'm drawing this, I don't even realize that the proportions are super off. I personally already draw men like super thick, so I was okay with this, but like it looked a little too scrunched up, and as a result it kind of threw me off when I finished the drawing. I was like, this kind of doesn't look right, but it's okay. I ended up liking him anyway. The thing that really inspired me to draw this in the first place was, of course, the avatar, but like there was this red sweater that I had put on him, and I was like, yo, this look fire. So afterwards I was like, bro, I should really draw him and all of his outfits. Now, I won't always use him as the same template for all the outfits, obviously, because that would get boring, but the outfits themselves put together looks really nice. And I just love drawing clothes. Like, I've always liked the idea of creating my own outfits and, like, putting them together on paper, because that's just, like, super cool. Like, fashion design is a whole other world that is just amazing to me. Finally, when I was done with the sketch, I was pretty happy with how it came out, genuinely, before I noticed the proportion thing. And I took my kneader and I rolled it across the paper just to make sure it picked up the excess like graphite and stuff. So this way, when I go in to line it, it won't show up as much. Now, I don't necessarily have a problem with the red showing up under the drawing, but sometimes I just feel like it looks cleaner when you erase it a little bit first and then put it together. Then came the lining process, and I wanted to try and give it a softer look, which ultimately means picking a color that is relatively close to that part of the drawing. So like for his skin, I picked a brown liner. For his pants, I picked a blue liner because they were blue jeans, and then a red liner for the shirt. Basically not using black liner anywhere that would be outside of the body or on the articles of clothing, except for his hair and eyes, which I wanted to stand out the most because I didn't want to use brown liner, although I do want to try that because I've seen people do it and it looks cool. But I gotta figure out how to incorporate it into my drawings with my style, which will happen someday because I really do like the way it looks, and I personally would like to do it on my own drawings, well, to see at least how it would look like, and then if I do like it, to incorporate it into my regular routine of drawing. Overall, I was actually pretty happy with the line art, but it was after the line art I realized that the body is pretty disproportionate, which is fine. I'm still learning, of course, and we shouldn't beat ourselves up too hard for it. Granted, I always draw my men super thick. I wanted to try and make him a little thinner, which, if you've seen my style of drawing, I actually have made him a little thinner than I normally do. The thing that really bothered me was just that, like, after when I was looking at it, because I do raise the paper up a lot to my face to check out how the drawing looks, it looked kind of squished, and that's what was bothering me the most. I think that's what made it look super disproportionate, was that it was just squished into the paper. And like I said, I'm gonna keep saying probably forever until I actually master it, I draw too big, so forcing a large drawing into a small piece of paper, in my head anyway, just kind of made it look squished. Maybe it does look normal and maybe I'm going way too hard on myself, but yeah. I finished the line art and then afterwards I went over it with the eraser again to try and clean it up one more time. Afterwards I brought my markers in and then cue that shot, you know, the one where everyone puts the markers on the table and looks cool, I guess. I don't know, I just do it because why not? Anyway, I grab the markers, I start coloring the hair, and I do it section by section because that's just how I'm used to it. Some people might color the whole thing off one way, and then everyone has something different. Once you have a marker in your hand, you'll figure things out yourself. I wasn't going to go with the original design of him because I wanted to try and look a little bit different than what the avatar actually looks like, which I'll do again next time when I draw him. Now, there was this one thing about the drawing that completely bothered me to like all ends of earth. I didn't realize when I was lining him that I actually moved too far over when I was lining the face, causing him to have a wider face, and it bothered me because I usually don't draw wide faces, I usually draw thin ones. Granted, it's not bad to have a wider face in the drawing, it's just a preference. So ultimately I was mad upset, because I wanted this cutie pie with a slim face, but I got a cutie pie with a chubby face, and here I am, still sour as a result. Moving on from that wee moment. I enjoyed the coloring process, like always, because I really do love coloring. My favorite thing to color was probably the boots, just because I really do like that article of clothing the most. I like shoes in general a lot. There's just something about them that they just look so cool. Also, when I was drawing this character up, I completely forgot that he even wears glasses. So that image that I plugged in at the beginning, if you want to look back at it, I don't know, it's up to you, that he had glasses on, and I was like, I already drew his eyes and his face, I don't want to just plug in glasses. It almost feels like it would just be put in there, so I just decided to just keep it on the little collar of his shirt, if that even is technically a collar, and just leave it hanging there for aesthetic purposes. When I was picking colors for the shirt, I didn't realize that I actually made the colors too bright in comparison to the original photo. I should have chosen a darker palette for this shirt. That's alright, honestly this drawing was kind of a dud, and we just gonna leave it like that. From here, I'll just let you watch the coloring process till I come back in like a minute or so. here's the finished product of the drawing. I like the little background pieces, which was just putting little dots everywhere, which I think is just kind of cute, you know. And I think he did overall come out pretty nice. I'll try again harder next time, though. Thank you for watching, and I love you. Remember that.